After multiple videos of using LSFG 3.0, it's safe to say that LSFG is wonderful. The same can be said about built-in frame generation also, not AFMF. But frame generation in general is an insane method of boosting FPS, and that had me thinking, if there are so many useful frame generation methods and all of them work alone, can you stack them and how well would that work? Now for the people who don't understand what I mean having one frame generation method at the bottom doubling your frames, then another frame generation method doubling those frames, and then the last frame generation method doubling those frames. Now from what I know of, the most frame generation methods you can have at once is 3. Since I have an AMD GPU, I don't have access to DLSS, but instead FSR3 frame generation. Then you have the great loss of scaling, and then you have AFMF, which is built into your GPU. So that is 3 different frame generation methods, and today I want to see if you can stack them and how stable that is. So let's get into the video. Now the game being tested in this video is Star Wars Outlaws. The reason for this is because it's one of the only games on my system that I haven't tested on, and I just recently deleted a lot of hoarded games off of my PC, so my library is pretty small. This game does have FSR3 frame generation though, and it does work pretty well, so that's one method of frame generation. Then I'm using LSFG 3.0 on a fixed 2x multiplier, so that is the second frame generation method, and for the last one I'm using AFMF 2.1 at the quality preset. Last but not least, the game settings are set at about high and all ray tracing based settings are set to low. Also, I am using FSR3 quality. Now first I want to show how it looks with only the built-in frame generation. The game is getting about 65 to 75 FPS. Now I didn't record the game without frame generation because there is pretty much no point, but if you do the math, the base game was getting about 32 to 37 FPS. This game isn't the best optimized, but I unknowingly played the game at this 35 to 40 FPS without frame generation for a very long time. This alone is a pretty decent way to play this and would do just fine without loss of scaling, but that's not fun. So let's add another layer of frame generation. Once I added LSFG 3.0, there was instantly a bad sign. The FPS from the built-in frame generation went from about 65 to 75 FPS all the way down to 60. I'm assuming that's from loss of scaling because that's what LSFG can do, but that's still not bad. You can still play perfectly fine with this. Now as you can see, with the FPS dropping down to 60, the LSFG doubles the FPS to about 120, which actually felt pretty smooth, and there wasn't much artifacting besides the RTSS overlay. So far it's hanging on pretty well. Now a way to make this better would be to lock the built-in frame generation to 50 to 60 for smooth gameplay, then doubling it, but this still wasn't bad yet. Lastly, I attempted to add AFMF, and before I could even get something working, this was happening. What I'm seeing happen on the screen looks a lot like LSFG and AFMF fighting back and forth. Now you guys couldn't see the stutter because of OBS, but it was bad. And as you can see by the AMD overlay on the top right of the screen, it's truly trying its absolute hardest. It seems that LSFG was technically winning the fight because the FPS was still being doubled, but there were micro freezes and a lot of visual glitches, making me feel as if my PC was going to. So in conclusion, this is technically not possible unless I was doing something wrong, but judging by how AFMF worked alongside the built-in frame generation without loss of scaling, I feel that it's simply just a matter of this not being possible. Should you do this with just built-in plus AFMF or built-in plus loss of scaling? Well, no. I would say that it would probably increase latency, maybe not to an extremely noticeable amount, but it would still increase it. If you want to try this, go ahead. Maybe this will feel good for you if you have a less than capable PC.